So, we're all watching this escalating conflict between Iran, Israel, and the US. But something really strange is happening. Iranian missiles are hitting Arab countries. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why would Iran attack its neighbors? Well, the answer is pretty wild, and it's buried in a secret history of power, control, and a whole network of American military bases. Today, we're going to dig it all up.
After the recent missile strikes we've seen in places like Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, this is the big question, right? On the surface, it just doesn't add up. So what is really going on here?
Okay, so Iran's official line, well, that actually opens up a way bigger can of worms. Because if they're telling the truth, it raises an even more fundamental question. Why are there massive U.S. military bases all over these Arab nations in the first place? Their presence, it turns out, is the absolute key to this entire conflict. So to really get what's happening today, we've got to rewind the clock. We'll look at a strategy called the British Blueprint, see how America eventually took the reins, uncover a pretty clever trap, and then see how it all leads to Iran finally striking back. All right, so let's get into it. You see, the headlines we're reading today are not random. They're the end result of a system that was put in place over 100 years ago. Let's take a look at how it all began. So let's rewind. We're talking right after World War I. The old Ottoman Empire is gone, it's collapsed, and suddenly Britain is in control of this huge swath of the Arab world. Now, they knew the locals would never accept a foreign Christian ruler, so they had to come up with a really smart plan. And this, right here, was their genius move. It was an almost invisible system of control. The idea was, let the local Arab kings handle the day-to-day stuff, roads, buildings, keep the people happy. But the real power, the military, the defense, the final say on everything important, that would stay with Britain, operating from their own military bases right there on Arab soil. It was like a ghost empire. The kings got the crown, but Britain held all the strings. Okay, so flash forward a few decades. World War II is over, Britain's on the winning side, but they're broke. They just can't afford to maintain this massive global empire and its network of bases anymore. So as the British Empire started to fade, a new superpower was rising, America. And you better believe the Arab monarchs knew which way the wind was blowing. And you can see from this timeline, it wasn't like a switch just flipped overnight. At first, the US moved in pretty carefully, just setting up some small bases to protect their oil interests. But they hit this huge roadblock, and his name was King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. This guy was a force. He kicked him out, dead set on keeping the Arab world independent. But then, he was assassinated in 1975, and that changed everything. I mean, just look at this. It is literally night and day. King Faisal was this powerful firewall against foreign control. The kings who came after him, not so much. They just didn't have his vision or his spine, frankly. And with that resistance gone, the US saw a golden opportunity to take that old British blueprint and ramp it up on a scale no one had ever seen before. So now the US has these willing partners in the new Arab kings, right? But you can't just roll tens of thousands of troops into a region for no reason. You need a public justification, a pretext. You need a boogeyman to scare your allies into needing your protection. And they found the perfect boogeyman in Iraq's Saddam Hussein.
And according to the source material we're looking at, what happened next was this pretty stunning four-step trap. Step 1, you basically give Saddam Hussein the green light to invade his tiny, oil-rich neighbor, Kuwait. Step 2, as soon as he does it, you flip the script. You run to the other Arab kings and say, oh my God, this guy is a monster and he's coming for you next. And this statement, or something very much like it, this was everything. This was the linchpin. It allegedly gave Saddam the confidence he needed to invade, which then sprung the trap. The second he rolled into Kuwait, the US could paint him as this massive threat to the entire region, especially to Saudi Arabia. And just like that, it worked. Like a charm. The terrified Arab monarchs practically begged America to come and save them. And the price for that salvation? Permanent US military bases on their land. The very thing King Faisal had fought so hard against was now a reality. The kings had effectively traded a chunk of their sovereignty for American protection.
But here's the thing you have to understand. These bases, they were never really just about defending Arab kingdoms. For the next 3 decades, they became the #1 launchpad for American military power across the entire Middle East.
And man, this list really says it all. The first Gulf War, the invasion of Afghanistan after 9/11, the invasion of Iraq in 2003, airstrikes in Syria, Libya, Yemen, you name it. All of these massive military campaigns were staged from this network of bases hosted by America's Arab allies.
And there was another really important job these bases had, according to the source. They effectively created a giant American military shield around Israel. Any country in the region that might even think about becoming a threat to Israel had to first deal with the overwhelming power of the United States, stationed right in their backyard.
And that brings us all the way back to today. Because for 40 years, no country in the region, nobody, dared to directly attack one of these American fortresses. But now, in response to what it claims were U.S. and Israeli attacks on its own territory, Iran has decided to challenge this entire system head-on.
And look, this wasn't just Iran firing blindly. Their counterattack was surgical. They went after high-value U.S. military assets with incredible precision. They had a huge logistics warehouse in Kuwait, a massive refueling jet in Iraq, a bunch of aircraft in Saudi Arabia, and maybe most importantly, a hugely powerful radar system at the giant Al-Udeid airbase in Qatar. $1 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated value of that one radar system they took out in Qatar. This thing was basically the eyes and ears of the U.S. military for the whole region. Iran's message couldn't have been clearer. Your billion-dollar toys are not safe.
So you might be wondering, how in the world did they pull this off against the most advanced military on the planet? Well, the strategy is actually brilliant. First, you launch a whole bunch of cheap, slow drones. They act as bait. They force the American air defense systems to light up and focus on them. Then, while the defenses are distracted, you send in the real punch: high-speed, hypersonic missiles that are almost impossible to stop.
But this is where the story gets murky. Iran has apologized for some missiles going astray, but it completely denies hitting others. The source alleges that some of these other attacks were actually staged by third parties, like Mossad agents, to falsely blame Iran, and, more importantly, to try and spark a massive war between the Sunni Arab kings and Shia Iran. So, is it just collateral damage? Or is it a very dangerous disinformation campaign? And so, we're left with this quote, this pretty chilling declaration. This isn't just a temporary flare-up. From Iran's point of view, this is a direct challenge to the entire foundation of American power in the Middle East, a system that the Arab kings bought into decades ago. And as long as those American bases remain, it seems this conflict is really only just getting started.